front. Open it up and head towards chapter 3. While you guys are turning to chapter 3, I'm going to tell you a little bit about what's going on and kind of set up our weekend. We're going to talk about a guy in the Bible who goes by the name Moses. All right? How many guys have heard of this Moses cat before? Yeah. It's a pretty cool guy. So Moses is probably up there in like most popular people in the Bible, okay? Because it's like Jesus, duh. All right, it's the Bible. And then it's like Moses, Father Abraham, who had many sons, and many sons had Father Abraham. I am one of them, and so are you. So let's just praise the Lord. Right arm, right foot, tongue out, shake your butt. All right, here we go. So, you know, that's just to cut through. We didn't need the band to come up here and lead that song. I can lead that one all day long. And then I think Paul's probably like number 3. So it's Moses, Father Abraham, and then Paul. Jesus on top, always. All right, so here we go. Talking about Moses, and this is a pretty cool guy in the Bible because he's got an interesting story. And I want to kind of lead you up into the story. If you want to read about this story, just to fact check me a little bit later, you can. It's Exodus 1, 2, 3. But here's how it begins. Moses is born as a baby. Wow, cool, duh. All right, so Moses is born as a baby, but he's born during a really unique and strange time in the land of Egypt. He's born as a slave. And so Moses is born as a slave into the land of Egypt, and what's going on is that the Egyptian people are angry at the Israelite people, and that's who Moses actually is. And so they're really angry about this, and so like the Pharaoh of Egypt, because you all know what pharaohs are, but he's basically like the president of Egypt. He's so mad about all these Israelites, he's upset, he's like, what's the deal? I'm tired of these. Let's just kill all these babies. Right, that's a bummer. So anyway, they're wanting to kill all the baby boys, and Moses is born, and when Moses is born, his mom looks at him, and his mom says, oh, this baby's special. It says that in the Bible. This baby's special. And I want you to know something, right? I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that I bet when you were born, somebody looked at you and said, oh, this baby's special. Now, here's the good news about that. All of you can kind of pat yourself on the back for a moment and be like, good thing. Glad somebody said that. The special's probably worn off a little by now. Am I right, youth pastors? It's kind of worn off a little bit because you guys suck sometimes. So, here's what I'm going to ask you to do, right? Maybe this week you kind of buff out the special grease and you start making yourself special again. But what I want you to notice is that when Moses was born, Moses' mom looked at him and Moses' mom said, this baby's special. So instead of killing baby Moses, she hid baby Moses for 3 months. 3 months. She's hid this baby because they're coming around looking for baby boys to kill because they don't want any more Israelite baby boys. So anyway, she's holding on to this baby for 3 months. And if you've ever been around a baby for 3 months, you know they cry, you know they scream, and you know they make some noise. So they realized, hey, we can't keep this baby forever like this. We're going to have to come up with a plan. And this is how crazy her plan was. She makes a basket. She puts tar in the bottom of the basket. And then she puts little baby Moses in the basket, puts the basket in the river, and pushes it down the stream. That's not really a great parenting motto, okay? If your mom's ever like, I'm so tired of your brother, and then they come up with that plan, you need to call 911, okay? My mom's crazy. So, here's what's going on. This is happening. Moses' mom makes this plan. She says, this is a special baby. She said this baby for 3 months. She puts this baby in a basket, pushes him down the stream. And as he goes down the stream, it turns into almost a Disney movie right away. Moses' little basket runs into the princess of Egypt. And she looks at that baby and she goes, I like this baby. I want this baby. This baby's now mine. And sure enough, this is so cool. This is in the Bible. You should check it out, right? Princess of Egypt, hanging out. Baby floats by. I don't know if that happened a lot in Egypt, but it did that day. She picks up that baby and she says, oh my goodness, this baby's special. And she wants to claim this baby as hers. And Moses' mom and dad actually get to help raise Moses. And then the princess of Egypt gets to claim Moses and call him hers. So check it out. Baby's born, he's special, but he's born with the death sentence, right? All the babies were supposed to die. He's sent into a river, and he's lifted up out of the situation he was in, and he was placed into royalty. Do you see that? Amazing story, very cool. Some of you guys are like, man, I wish there was a basket for me. But something else that's pretty interesting about the story of Moses is that, we read this in Hebrews chapter 11, much later in the Bible, by the way, that Moses grows up in Egypt, grows up with all the power and all the authority of a royal person in the royal family of Pharaoh. But he says, you know what? I don't want that. I don't need that. I want something far greater than what the world has to offer me. I want to be a person who follows after God. And so Moses boldly says, I don't want what the world has. I want what God has. So Moses rejects his royal identity, and he becomes, again, a slave. And then this is really cool. This is where it gets like Law and Order like style. Dun dun. Moses kills a guy, buries him in the sand. Pharaoh finds out he's a murderer. And then it's like CSI, crime scene investigatory, and the guy takes his glasses off. You know what I'm talking about, man. And then Moses straight up runs out of Egypt and into the desert or the wilderness, and you're like, wait a minute, I've seen Egypt, it's desert. And you're like, yeah, I have no idea where he ran, but it was more desert, more wilderness, right? So anyway, Moses is on the run for murder. Everybody say murder.
Murder.
And now he's out in the middle of nature. So, before we get into the text, you guys are all there, right? Exodus chapter 3. I got a quick video just to kind of explain a little bit of my feelings of nature, and I hope that your feelings too. Let's roll that beautiful green footage.
For me, nature is one of the neatest things on this planet. That's why Rodney and I started Nature Walk, because we want everyone to know how neat nature is, instead of just me and Rodney knowing it. That's pretty neat. Without a doubt, coming out into nature is one of the neatest things there is to do. But you also have to be careful. That's why I always try to pack a gun. It's just a little bit to pack some heat. Now this isn't much of a big boy. I don't want to kill the animal, but I do want to warn it and say, hey, I think you're pretty neat, but I respect your distance. There's bears out here, there's mountain cougars, and a biting goat. How neat is that? That's pretty neat. Oh, wow, score! Look at this. This is an aspen. You can tell that it's an aspen tree because of the way it is. Wow. Wow. What a beaut. You know, it'd be a great camper to a great day to be seeing a wild animal. I just get real excited at the opportunity to maybe see an antelope or a fox, you know, or some sort of mountain beast. So what I do sometimes is I'll try to, you know, shake things up a little bit, get the earth moving, and call out to them, you know. Here we go. Up, up, up. Hip. Hip, hip, hip. Come on.
Yeah, Daddy.
Come on, girl. Nothing. Gee, dang it. I don't see any coming out right now, but I'm not giving up yet. Not too often you can get all this neatness in one location. That's called nature.
There you go. All right. Wasn't that neat?
Yeah, it was.
So Moses is out. He's run away. He's murdered somebody. He's hanging out in the middle of nature. Exodus chapter 3, verse 1 says this. One day Moses was tending the flock of his father-in-law Jethro, the priest of Midian. He led the flock far into the wilderness and came to Sinai, the mountain of God. There the angel of the Lord appeared to him in a blazing fire from the middle of a bush. Moses stared in amazement. Though the bush was engulfed in flames, it didn't burn up. This is amazing, Moses said to himself. Why isn't that bush burning up? I must go see it. Let's pause for a minute right there. And check it out. I love the Bible because it does this, right? It kind of like paints this beautiful, very clear picture, right? There's a bush that's burning, but not burning. We all understand. It's burning, not burning up, right? Get it? There. And then we get that Moses is saying, That's awesome. I'm going to go check it out. Here's what I want you to catch this weekend right here, right? Moses makes a point not to miss it. If you're taking notes tonight, I want you to write point number 1 down as this. Don't miss it. You saw it right there. Moses recognized that God was up to something, that something amazing was happening off in the distance, and Moses made a point not to miss what was going on. His sheep didn't care, right? They didn't care that there was a bush burning, not burning. But Moses did, and he made a decision to go towards it, to go check it out. This weekend, right here, right now, what we get to do is possibly encounter God. We just sang songs praising the Lord for who he is, what he's done, and how he loves us. We're looking into his text. We're checking it out. We're opening it up. We've been praying for this weekend. We've been praying for you. Your youth pastors have been praying for you. Your adults have been praying for you. And they're hoping and praying that you don't miss God this weekend. If you've come here with anything else on your agenda, maybe it's to find a new babe, maybe it's to get some new friends for Snapchat, maybe it's to get some more followers on your Insta, whatever your agenda or game plan is, let it be known that there's something far greater than what the world has to offer you this weekend, and it is God himself. I believe God's going to speak to some of you this weekend. Maybe for the very first time. Maybe he's going to speak to you again. It's been a long time since you've heard from him. And maybe this is a weekend where you can make a mindset to say, I'm not going to miss what God is going to do. Just as Moses said, why is that bush burning up? I must go see it. Verse 4, back in the text, it says this. When the Lord saw Moses coming to take a closer look, God called to him from the middle of the bush, Moses, Moses, exclamation point. Here I am, Moses responds. We're going to pause again just for a second. Not only do we have a burning bush not burning, but we see a talking bush, right? Now this is where it gets really crazy. The bush doesn't just go, I'm Groot, right? The bush like straight up calls Moses by his name. Now, if any of you guys go to your host homes later tonight, or you go back to your home, or whatever you guys are planning on doing, I'm not for sure. Say you go back to a place and you walk by a bush, and then all of a sudden that bush starts talking to you by name. You'd run. I mean, let's be real. Like, talking bushes should scare people. Moses is walking up, drawing closer and closer, and the Lord is in this bush. And the Lord speaks to him and says, Moses, Moses. And Moses' response is, here I am. Verse 5. Do not come any closer, the Lord warned. Take off your sandals, for you are standing on holy ground. I am the God of your father, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, the God of Jacob. When Moses heard this, he covered his face because he was afraid to look at God. Then the Lord told him, I have certainly seen the oppression of my people in Egypt. I have heard their cries of distress because of their harsh slave drivers. Yes, I am aware of their suffering. This brings me to my second point. So if you're taking notes, those of y'all amazing kids with pens and paper, just all that skill to retain information. Here comes point number 2, but first let me remind you, point number 1, don't miss it. Point number 2 is this. It says, God has seen, heard, and knows you. Students, I don't want you to miss out on how awesome and how amazing God is. God isn't just trapped inside of a bush that calls you by name. God is the creator of the universe. He's the person who created you and had a plan for you. He's the creator of who you are, and he made you looking at you and said, this person's special. So special, I'm going to send my son to die for you. I'm going to send my son to do what they can't do so they can have a relationship with me. That's how special you are to God. And what's amazing is this, is that God knows you even when you aren't that special. Even when you live in sin. Even whenever you have passions and desires that are weird and awkward and strange. And you blame it on being a middle schooler, but reality is it's because you're human. God loves you even in your sinfulness, and God has sent his son to die for you even while you were still sinners. We know that from his word, and we believe his word to be true. Students, you couldn't have done anything for God not to care about you. That's how amazing God is. That's how vast his love is. Don't miss it. Some of you are here tonight and you don't think God could love you because of what you've done. Some of you are here this weekend and you don't even know if you want God to love you. But I hope and I pray that you'll be exposed to who God really is and not what you think he is. I hope that while we read his word, your eyes will be open, your hearts will be broken before the Lord. Verse 8 says, "So I have come down to rescue them from the power of the Egyptians and lead them out of Egypt into their own fertile and spacious land. It is land flowing with milk and honey, the land where the Canaanites, Hittites, Amorites, Perizzites, Hivites, and just all the ites live there," all right? Verse 9 says this, "Look, exclamation point, the cry of the people of Israel has reached me, and I have seen how harshly the Egyptians abuse them. Now go, for I am sending you to Pharaoh. You must lead my people Israel out of Egypt." But Moses protested to God. "Who am I to appear before Pharaoh? Who am I to lead the people of Israel out of Egypt?" Some of you, because I know young people. I'm not young like you are. I'm 31. It's really old to some of you. I've been in student ministry for as long as some of you have been alive, and that freaks me out. But I play Fortnite, so I believe I know about you. I suck at Fortnite. Sorry, I'm terrible at it. Good, and good company. One other honest person in the room. But here's what I want you to know. Sometimes we, and I mean we because I'm including myself and I'm talking about the adults in the room, sometimes we allow ourselves to go, "Why me, God? Who am I, God? What could I possibly do, God?" Moses will go on to explain how he's a stutterer. "I'm not good with words. I mess everything up. Why should I do any of this?" Moses is going to protest and fight against God for a while and be like, no, you got the wrong God. But I love what verse 12 has to say about this. God answered, "I will be with you, and this is your sign that I am one who has sent you. When you have brought the people out of Egypt, you will worship God at this very mountain." I like it because I feel like God says this, "Moses, I don't really care who you are. I'm with you." So that's point number 3. It's not about who you are. It's not about you. It's God. Students, no matter where you come from, no matter what your story is, no matter what the situation of your life, what your sin struggle is, what your habits are, what your hang-up is, what your problem is, what your addiction might be, whatever you're coming from, and you approach this weekend to encounter God, not in a burning bush, but in a building that's pretty awesome. You come here to encounter the Lord, guess what? It's not about you. It's about God. It's not about your fault. It's not about your shame. It's not about your brokenness. It's about His perfection. It's about His holiness. It's about His sacrifice that He's already paid for you, for me, for the adults in the room. It's all about Him, man. We keep getting hung up because we live in a culture, we live in a society, we live in a world that tells us it's all about us. We need to be above everything else. We are the most important thing that walks into the classroom every single day. We are the most important thing in existence in the world. Guess what? That's not true. You know it. That's why it's a struggle every day when you go to school, whenever you're worried about what your hair looks like, what you're wearing, whenever you're worried about how other people are going to judge you. That's why we panic whenever our streaks are about to end and we don't know if our phone's going to have enough battery signal to make it reach out. We're going to lose the streak. Who cares? We live in a so self-absorbent culture that we're so consistently worried it's all about us. We must be above everything. Guess what? That's not what this weekend is about, students. No. This weekend's about something far greater than you being above everything. This weekend's about God being above everything. And it's about a God who is above everything, who, like a princess in Egypt, has bent down, looked at you and said, "I want you." And has made a way for you to be a child of His. You could be a son or daughter of the King of Kings, the Lord of Lords. You might be the person who's the poorest kid at your school. You might be the richest kid at your school. Guess what? Here's what life is. Through Jesus Christ, you leave your earthly situation and you enter into His eternal situation. Students, man, how cool is it to know that God has made a way to choose you? And He's allowed you to respond to Him. And that He could very well be calling out to you by name. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to close our eyes. We're going to bow our heads. We're going to be still for a few moments. I notice a couple of us are talking. Most of y'all have done a wonderful job paying attention. I'm so grateful for that. The band's about to make their way up onto the stage and play a few songs. But in these next few moments, I want you to be very, very still. I want you to not touch your neighbor. I want you just to be listening and observing. And I want you just right here, right now, ask God, God, speak to me. God, open my heart. God, open my eyes to you. With everyone's head bowed and eyes closed, no one's looking around. This is a time and a moment where you get to be all alone in a room filled with people. Perhaps you're here tonight and you got invited to come to this weekend by a friend or by your youth pastor or by a Sunday school teacher. You're here tonight and you know you have yet to encounter God on a personal level. You're here right now and you can say, you know what, Jake? I don't know you, but I'm willing to be honest with you. I've yet to encounter the Lord on my own. With everyone's head bowed and eyes closed, would you just raise your hand to be so bold, be so brave, be honest with me, and be like, I don't know God myself just yet. If you're here tonight, I'm not asking you to make a decision. I'm just asking you to be honest. Doesn't matter who your parents are. Doesn't matter how long you've gone to church. Doesn't matter how long you've been a part of your youth group. What I'm asking is, have you been called by God by name to become a child of God's? Anyone in here so brave to be like, not me, not yet? I see your hand. I'm grateful for that. Thanks for being honest with me. I say this to my kids all the time. If you can't be honest with yourself, you can't be honest with anyone. And students, think about that for a minute. If you can't be honest with yourself, you can't be honest with anyone. And right here, you're being honest with you and a stranger. I don't know your name. I don't know your story. Here's a chance for you to be perfectly honest with yourself for a moment. Anyone else here tonight? Hey, I haven't yet encountered God like this Moses guy. I see you. Anyone else? I see you. You put your hands down. Students, here's what I want you to catch, and here's what I want you to see. I can't bring a bush in here and light it on fire and hope that it doesn't get consumed. I can't do that, but I can open the Word of God and I can speak to you about His Son, Jesus Christ, who He sent on your behalf to be far greater than a burning bush, but to be a holy and perfect sacrifice for your behalf, for my behalf, for the world's behalf. Students, He sent Jesus to come and live a life that we couldn't live so that we could put our faith, hope, and trust in Jesus, because He died on a cross as a sacrifice for you and me, but He rose from the grave 3 days later. He went out and He talked to His disciples. He ate with His disciples. He explored with 500 people and more and proclaimed to them that it was their mission to go make the gospel known. And guess what? We're doing it 2,000 years later right here in a room in Norman, Oklahoma. You could be exposed to the God of creation right here, right now. The question is, will you allow Him to speak to you? Will you allow yourself to respond to Him? Will you be so bold? Will you be so brave? Will you make sure that you, like Moses, don't miss it? And will you give your life to Jesus Christ tonight and begin a relationship with the Lord? He's calling to you. You feel it, man. Your tummy's all funny. You don't know what's going on. Your hands are all clenched. You're nervous. You're scared. You don't know what your friends are going to think. Your friends brought you here. They're pumped for this. They want you to do this. They invited you to do this. So a moment ago I asked if anyone was so brave and so bold, they'd raise their hand and say, hey, I have yet to meet God. To those people and others, if you're here tonight and you would like to begin a relationship with that God, would you put your hand up? Real tall, no bent bow, straight arms. Come on, put them up. I'm going to ask my adults to go ahead and stand on up to make their way to the back of the room. I'm going to ask my youth pastors to come on forward if they can. I saw your hands. No one's looking around. My eyes are open. Everyone else's are closed. I ask your youth pastors to come up. I ask your adults to move to the back. Students, here in a few minutes, I want you to come and grab your youth pastor and say, I want a relationship with God. Here's what's cool. You get to keep your shoes on. Moses had to take his shoes off. How awkward was that? If you're here tonight and you're ready to begin a relationship with God for the first time, now's your time. Will you get up and come talk to your sponsor? Will you come talk to your youth pastor? Will you come and say, I want to begin a relationship with the Lord? They're up here right now. No one's looking around. It's your shot to come. Perhaps you're here tonight and you began a relationship with the Lord a long time ago, or maybe just last week. I want to ask you, man, will you be praying for this weekend? Will you pray that God speaks to you this weekend? Will you pray for your friends this weekend? Because we're going to talk about this Israelite nation for a couple of days here. We're going to talk about their victory. We're going to talk about their defeats. We're going to talk about what it means to be in relationship with God and be obedient in that relationship with God. And maybe you're here tonight and you know you need to get some business right with the Lord. I want to urge you to take full advantage of the time you have this weekend. Get things right with God. Don't let anything allow you to miss out. Team leaders, I see you guys in the back. I got a question or a challenge for y'all whenever you get home with these kids. I want to ask you to ask them when they met the Lord. What was their burning bush moment? When did they give their life to the Lord? Have some great testimony time tonight. Maybe another question for your home group time is, what do you let stand in the way every day for you to miss out on God? Hope you got those. Students, we're going to continue on in some worship. If you need to talk to your youth pastor, they're here, they're available. Don't let anything stop you. Don't miss out.